Welcome to the Sabbath table.
It's good to be diving into this with you. We're looking today at, well, a really crucial prophetic sequence, Revelation chapter 14, verses 6 through 12.
The three angels' messages.
Exactly, three successive messages. And they're not just, interesting prophecies. They outline God's final warning to the world. And they really chart the path for our faith as we look towards the second advent.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Our goal here is to really get into the meaning of these messages, see how we understand their fulfillment in our own history, and importantly, grapple with that very solemn warning about the mark of the beast, and ultimately find that assurance, that victory promised to those who keep God's commandments. It really all comes down to loyalty in the end, doesn't it?
It truly does. So let's start right at the beginning, the first angel's message, Revelation 14, verses 6 and 7. It pictures this angel flying in midair, holding the everlasting gospel to proclaim to everyone on earth, and the message itself. Fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of waters.
That's powerful. The everlasting gospel tied directly to the hour of his judgment having come. And when we look back, we see this historically as the last real mission of mercy connected with proclaiming the second advent.
Right.
And there's a specific time frame we associate with this message hitting its peak, isn't there? Around 1843.
Yes, leading up to 1843. That period was significant. We understand this message gained, tremendous power as believers worldwide were studying the prophecies, especially Daniel's 2,300-day prophecy. And focusing on the soon coming of Christ, it really did wean us from worldly things. We felt its purifying power, pushing us toward, seeking forgiveness through Christ's blood.
So it wasn't just a general call to fear God. It was tied to a specific prophetic timing. And our sources mention fulfilling Habakkuk's command to write the vision plainly. We saw that happen quite literally, didn't we?
Absolutely. With those large prophetic charts being displayed publicly in 1842 and 1843, making the message clear, spreading the news, the judgment hour is here.
Okay, so that's the foundation. Judgment hour, worship the Creator. What comes next?
Well, the foundation is laid, but then the focus shifts immediately. If the first message dealt with timing and judgment, the second deals with consequences and separation.
Right, Revelation 14, verse 8, the second angel's message. Babylon is fallen, come out of her, my people.
And the crucial thing here is the timing. This message followed the first one. They didn't go out together.
Okay, so why? Why did Babylon fall then?
Well, our understanding is this. When the established churches, the mainstream denominations of the time, broadly refused to accept or even allow the preaching of the first message, the everlasting gospel about the coming kingdom and judgment.
When they closed their doors to it.
Exactly. When they actively rejected that Advent message, they essentially turned away from the spirit of truth guiding it. In that prophetic sense, they became Babylon, symbolizing confusion and a departure from truth, and they fell.
And that specific rejection, that fall, we pinpoint that to 1844.
Yes, that summer of 1844. And that conviction, that understanding, it led us to heed the second part of the call. Come out of her, my people. We felt compelled to, break the ties that bound us to those churches.
To make our escape, as the source says.
Precisely, to separate from the fallen churches. And we saw this prophecy fulfilled right then, right there, in our own experience. It really established us as a distinct people holding on to that Advent truth.
Which leads us then to the third message, the heaviest one, really, Revelation 14, verses 9 through 12. This is the great warning.
It is the most solemn declaration. It warns against worshiping the beast or his image or receiving his mark.
Okay, before we get to the mark itself, who is this beast? We need clarity there.
Right. Based on prophecy, particularly Daniel and a Revelation, we identify the first beast mentioned here, the one that receives worship, as the papal power. That system, which held sway for that prophetic period of 1,260 years.
From 538 to 1798.
Correct. A power known for attempting to change God's law. So the warning is against aligning with the authority and the traditions established by that system.
And it's a serious warning because the consequences spelled out so clearly. Those who get the mark drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture, which we understand refers to the 7 last plagues, right? Undiluted divine judgment, leading ultimately to torment with fire and brimstone for those aligned with the beast power.
A truly terrifying prospect. But thankfully, the message doesn't just leave it there. Right after the warning, it gives this incredible contrast. It identifies our group, the faithful remnant.
Goes 12.
Verse 12, here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus.
That phrase, the patience of the saints, resonates so strongly with our history. That period of patient waiting started right after the Great Disappointment in 1844.
Exact.
And because we'd been called out of Babylon, out of those fallen churches, we were then free, weren't we? Free to receive new light, particularly the glorious truth about the Holy Sabbath shining from the heavenly sanctuary.
Which had just been prophetically opened.
Right. So that places the timing for this third message, the one emphasizing God's commandments, firmly in the time after 1844. It's for now.
Precisely. Which brings us right to that critical question. What is this mark of the beast, the thing carrying such dire consequences?
Yeah, let's define that.
Okay, first, what it's not. We're taught it's not some literal physical brand or, a computer chip.
Okay.
Rather, it represents something conspicuous, a prominent profession of religious faith. It's a sign of allegiance, but to the wrong authority. Symbolically seen in the forehead, representing belief, or in the hand, representing actions or compliance.
So if it's a prominent point of religious faith, what specific point is it? Our sources are very direct here.
They are. They identify it as the observance of the first day of the week, Sunday, as a holy day of rest instead of the biblically mandated seventh day. This practice was introduced and promoted by the Papal Power.
So the mark is Sunday observance enforced as a religious duty.
Enforce allegiance to it, yes. And the core conflict here, it's not really about Saturday versus Sunday intrinsically. It's about authority. Whose authority do you follow? God's, as expressed in his commandments, or man's tradition?
Because this mark, this Sunday observance as a holy day, stands in direct opposition to keeping God's commandments, specifically the fourth one, which clearly identifies the seventh day, the Sabbath.
Exactly, the 10 immutable laws, including the Sabbath commandment.
And if you just stick to the Bible, well, we find absolutely no scripture commanding or authorizing the observance of the first day in honor of the resurrection, making it a holy day of rest. Zero divine authority.
None whatsoever. It goes back to that papal power, which Daniel prophesied would think to change times and laws.
Daniel 7, verse 25.
And historically, that system did suppress and trample down the true Sabbath for that long period, the 1,260 years, elevating a tradition based purely on its own claimed authority.
Okay, so the mark is linked to papal authority and Sunday observance. But the prophecy also mentions an image of the beast and another beast enforcing this. How does that fit?
Yes. This is crucial for understanding how it plays out. The mark becomes widespread because it's an institution of the papacy that is ultimately enforced by Protestantism, specifically through the actions of another prophetic power.
The two-horned beast.
The two-horned beast, yes. Which arises later, described in Revelation 13. We identify this power arising around or after 1798, looking lamb-like initially, but speaking like a dragon, as the Great American Republic.
That's a significant identification. The United States as the enforcing power.
That's our understanding based on the prophetic characteristics. This power, the USA, will eventually use its global influence and legislative power to compel people to worship the image of the first beast.
And the image of the beast is?
We see that as representing a union of church and state, where religious laws are enacted and enforced by civil authority, specifically creating religious tests centered on this false day of worship.
Compelling Sunday observance by law.
Essentially, yes. And the prophecy says this two-horned beast will use deception, even apparent miracles like calling fire down from heaven, to mislead the world into accepting this mark and worshiping the image.
So intense pressure, deception, state power, all pushing towards conformity on the day of worship. This really clarifies how that final separation happens.
It does, and it highlights why the Sabbath is so critical in this final conflict. We understand the Sabbath truth to be the great sealing truth.
The sign that distinguishes those who receive the seal of the living God, his mark of approval and ownership, from those who ultimately receive the mark of the beast.
And think back to what John saw in vision, right? When the most holy place of the heavenly sanctuary was opened at the end of the 2,300 days in 1844.
He saw the Ark of the Covenant.
Containing the 10 Commandments. Still there. Preserved perfectly in heaven. If they're upheld there, unchanged, they certainly haven't been abolished or altered down here on earth. God's law is eternal.
Which means this whole conflict brings humanity to a final division. Just two classes?
That's it.
Those who choose loyalty to God, keep his commandments, including the Sabbath, and receive his seal-finding protection through the coming time of trouble, those 7 last plagues.
And the other glass.
Those who yield to pressure, follow human tradition, receive the mark of the beast, and consequently face the unmingled wrath of God. It's why our sources urge us not to hug to our bosom this child of the mother of harlots, meaning don't embrace this false worship system.
It's a stark warning. But alongside it, there's that incredible promise of victory. We truly believe that those who overcome the beast, his image, his mark, his number on the way, they will stand victorious on the sea of glass, on Mount Zion with the Lamb.
Having achieved that victory, how?
Through keeping the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. That's the path through the patience of the saints.
This whole deep dive, it really underscores that we are, well, rapidly approaching an incredibly serious time, an awful hour of decision. And it seems clear that nothing but clinging to pure truth and living in righteousness is going to see us through. We really have to humble ourselves before God now.
We must.
And choose to obey and honor him by keeping all his commandments, while this final warning, the third angel's message, is still sounding.
And crucially, for us to have the strength to stand, we need to seek a full and free pardon for all our sins, all our failings, through the atonement of Jesus Christ. Right now, while he is still pleading his blood for us before the Father in the heavenly sanctuary.
We thank you for joining us at the Sabbath table.